and I think the Lucian could potentially be a flex pick in a draft like this, although with the Graves pick this early, you don't have a lot of CC to set there in the mid lane, but you know, we'll see what he ends up pairing it with. I think this Renata pick does lean more towards going to the bottom side here. You see the Samira is picked up early here. Samira plus Wukong is a combo you don't want to face in the mid game, especially if Aze get an early lead. Immortal Shield Bow plus the Wukong knockup makes for a very fiery team fight. Combo that, of course, with the Nautilus. And Aze already looking to be scrappy on you know, Drake's 2 and 3, those Rift Herald fights. Very strong team fighting composition that doesn't have the same late game oomph as a lot of other AD carries. So we'll see how this one pans out.
You know, they were talking about on the desk how Wukong is a little bit like Diana, you know, just kind of goes in, really sets up the team fight. And we saw that in game number 1 from Saigon Buffalo, a pretty similar composition, and already Aze is going down that path. So let's see where we're going to get some more of these bans. We do have the Vex ban coming out here. Definitely something that could be popular. We already do have the Ahri ban very early on from the side of DFM as well.
Yeah. And Gangplank taken away here. Don't want to be dealing with that, especially in terms of scaling problems you can run into later on in the game. Gangplank is just so strong right now. Just ask anyone about it, or ask anyone who plays top lane, regardless of elo, and they're going to tell you they've run into their fair share of Gangplanks right now in this meta, on this patch. But it's definitely one way to stop DFM from having a little bit more stability towards the later parts of the game. And it can really slow, the Cannon Barrage could, you know, slow obviously what Aze are building here, and can really mess up some of those mid-game team fights too. So I do like the ban. Gnar will be the answer here. Is you're thinking about all the combos, all the ways you can set up for that big Samira ultimate, and Gnar is one of those great tools, so do really appreciate that ban on DFM side.
Yeah, definitely something that Gangplank can take advantage of as well. So when you see the Gangplank ban, it's like, well, let's potentially take that away in case they do want to play that here. TF will be taken off the board. We saw that first picked by T1 in game number 1. And it did make it all the way to the second phase of bans here, but they do take that away. And the Syndra is going to be the choice now for Yaharong in the mid lane.
Yeah, it's a pick that he's played a lot over his career in the LCK as well. Will be the, looks like, the answer from Alone to be the Zoe here. And there's so much setup, there's so much CC in Aze's team comp. It's going to give him a lot more range as well. And it's a pretty decent matchup, obviously, into the Syndra. Flipping it over, though, will be the Rumble to come through instead, feeling like a bit of a throwback here in this one, and I like the pressure you can bring on, and you layer that damage into the ultimate coming through from Samira and all the CC you've already got in this composition.
Exactly.
This is gonna get scrappy.
It's layers on layers, right? You roll out the red carpet, a good old Wukong runs down it, and Samira brings it in as well. Now the Viktor is going to be the follow-up. Definitely another champ that, you know, I guess in terms of the composition, he can throw out a Chaos Storm and say, well, you know, maybe I'll go into my Zonias, maybe I'll die, but I'll do a lot of burst damage as well. It is a hefty amount of magic damage with the Rumble and the Viktor, but definitely, again, focus on just wombo comboing in some of these fights.
I personally would have rather seen the Viktor pick here for DFM as kind of a late game shoring up of the damage, because yes, they do have the Graves damage later on, but Lucian is going to fall off significantly. But what they're going to do instead is actually take this Ornn pick, which is safe into a lot of flexing we could have potentially seen in this draft as well, where these picks are going to go. Very safe weak side you could take. You put your focus on mid and the bottom side of the map. The Ornn is going to make your picks a lot stronger in the late game because of his ornament upgrades later on. But the Syndra is going to set up for big damage. There's a lot of CC here for DFM between the Call of the Forge God and the Scatter of the Weak. Plus, of course, the Renata ult that's going to make this very difficult to run into. And I think that is going to be, in the mid-game, the biggest problem for Aze. Similar to Keриa's tidal waves we saw in the previous game, you want to run in with this Wukong composition. You want to look for the engage with the Nautilus, but everybody gets berserked, and then your entire team fight is ruined. You need that Viktor damage follow-up. You need that ult coming through from the Rumble as well, once your initial engage kind of goes awry.
Yeah, definitely can be a little bit ham-fisted from the side of Team Aze, but we've seen that work before. I think that, though, DFM have brought a healthy amount of disengage and ways to survive alongside of a great amount of scaling damage as the game goes along, at least in the Graves, so that is one thing. As it does look like the pick ban has ended. We should be getting into this game in just a moment.
Yeah, I am excited to see Rumble back. Rumble, one of those picks that seems always just kind of creep in these international tournaments, especially in the early parts. And it's a champion that can be so potent in games like this that get scrappy, and where it's not clear who has a very strong advantage going into mid games. Rumble's just so good at saying, that objective is mine. I put down my ultimate and you can't get anywhere near it. So much zone control. And it's just one of my favorite champions to cast, to be honest with you, Valdes. So I'm glad he's back, at least in this game.
Yes, thank you for being honest with me, Wolf.
I would never lie to you.
Yeah. Rumble's pretty fun. I'm a big fan. Yeah, this is going to be interesting. I'm curious to see how the Viktor is going to work alongside of all this hard engage. Definitely gives you a little bit of an out as the game does come along. You know, it has that nice amount of scaling damage. We'll see where he can do what Alones can do. Kind of funny, some of the names on the side of Team Aze, right? We have Lonely, but we also have Alone, so I don't know. Have you ever been so lonely that you were alone for a long period of time?
He's been alone. Well, we'll see how much jungle proximity we see for these two solo laners this game.
Also, you know, 5kid from Korea, we actually had a bit of an issue where the word for 5 in Korean is O, right? Yeah. So we were like, is he O-kid? Is he 5kid?
And some people are like, is he skid?
Yeah, is it supposed to be an S? You know? What is his name? We have landed on 5kid.
Yeah.
That is what we will call him.
To contextualize also the relationship between 5kid and Harp, they did play together on KT Rolster's Academy team, as well as, of course, a few games of LCK, but not part of the main roster. Did end up moving away to the LLAs. An invade happens here, and this is just really annoying to deal with, as Dimitry will just move to the wolves instead.
It's actually going to be pretty big, as we do have some nice CC onto Harp. As, yeah, with the action kind of settling here. Oh, no, they're still going in. They're still actually getting onto that one, but the smite comes in. Dimitri's level 2, and now Steel and Evi in a bit of trouble. Not able to land that smite, as he will have to smite on the blue up, trying to survive here. Gets that dash away once again, and will flash to get to safety. Do Aze have the damage to actually take anyone out? Looks like the answer will actually be no.
No, but the advantages gained here are pretty real, because Steel obviously had to smite there, is very low, is going to have to now go back and have a very delayed start to his jungle. Dimitry hits level 2 faster, is going to have a free blue buff here uncontested now. And, you know, the health that was taken, the damage that Evi had taken there and sustained is going to make that early level 1 of the laning phase very frustrating. You can see Lonely already hits 2 faster. And Dimitry going to go ahead and start this Gromp. Has a really, really nice lead. I mean, notice where Steel is right now. He's actually gone over to the right side of the jungle, is several camps behind. And DFM didn't have to play this aggressively, but really wanted to actually stop this Wukong in its tracks. The clear that Wukong obviously has can be very frustrating to play against, can be so strong in the mid game, but it actually backfires. And now, in fact, Wukong has a massive advantage, which is exactly the opposite of what was intended here for DFM.
Yeah, you can see Steel finally kills a camp. It is the blue buff, as he wasn't able to do anything in his own red buff jungle. And he will be a very sad Graves. Now, Graves will be faster at clearing, but that early start is going to be very nice for Dimitry, as you did mention. Yeah, I'm just kind of going to be doing this now for the next long while, and we might not see Steel for a very long while, whereas Dimitry definitely will have some opportunities to get stuff done. I mean, at least in the bottom lane, I'd say. There's not a huge amount of gank assist with the Viktor, with the Rumble, but we will have to see if he can make any plays down towards the bottom side of the map.
Yeah, you know, post 6 obviously going to be a lot stronger, is Evi just going to get the knock up here to push Lonely back. The aggressive trading there.
Yeah.
I wanted to point out something that we've seen, a small trend so far, is that with the nerfs to some of our more traditional and more common AD carries like late game scaling, Jinx, and Aphelios, we have seen more early to mid game focused AD carries from everyone basically so far. Obviously, Tristana can be strong in the early game and in the late parts. Just hold that thought.
Alone, he's on in the smoke cloud. He is not going to be able to get out of this one. The flash comes in. One more auto, and Yaharong will take him out. Not the cleanest kill, but they get the job done. As you can see, that Steel actually is active early on in this game.
Yeah, very impressive, or important rather, start here for DFM after the jungle went so awry. It's just, I don't think a trade you want to take Dimitry is very far away. And this is the problem, of course, once you miss your engage like that, you're going to take a lot of that Lucian damage back. And Steel's up here.
Yeah, look at this. I mean, we don't have any flash now, and Steel is just making so much work happen. Not sure, he's not going to be able to get this kill, though, as Evi not really able to set up for that one. We will have, the Grasp will come in there, and 5kid will go down, and straight gets a little bit too close to the sun, and Yutapon will easily scoop another kill. That's 2 kills now for the bottom lane of DFM.
And this is what I was talking about. You don't want to trade like that in this lane. If you don't actually have enough damage to secure the kill, the Lucian will, with his passive, trade back so much damage in the early game. He's hitting you repeatedly, and then suddenly DFM's bot duo has kill pressure to push back onto you, and you can see that they just kind of got destroyed there. Before 5kid has his ultimate available, you're not going to be able to turn around like this. So going back to, of course, this earlier moment here, the vision around the bottom side of the map here is just Alone has nothing. They pinged it, but he has no idea. I mean, he's clearly just focused on the laning here. Yaharong's low mana, trying to get advantages there. And as you mentioned, it wasn't the cleanest kill here for Yaharong, but he gets it done in the end. And just notice how much abuse you're going to take with Samira Nautilus in a lane like this when you don't have the ability to hook, you don't have pulling pressure, you just die straight up.
Yeah, great play from Harp, you know, just waits out the block. He's able to get the handshake in, and just very well played mechanically. You know, they're able to get the 2v2, which is very nice to see. As
Evi is struggling up here after the early game. That's just how this matchup is going to go. Yeah,
note also that he went for Grasp here in this lane. You know, a couple of technically melee champions, he should be able to proc it quite a lot, but it does mean that he doesn't have really like the Ignite that he can switch to with that Unseal spellbook we see very often. He doesn't have a smite for later on, you know, stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, he's not able to help himself out a little bit in some of these skirmishes.
Honestly, even with the exhaust he could pick up against this composition could be so great into the Samira, into the Wukong. So a bit of a surprising pick. But either way, you know, he's struggling in this laning phase. Isn't going to be able to get as much value out of it with how things have gone so far. And, you know, Rift Herald is going to be the first team fight focused objective here for these two teams. Samira obviously going to be so strong in the early levels with the Wukong. If they can hit 6 before that, and they're on track to do so. Tense moment here as the vision is shown. You can see there's just not a whole lot of it.
Yeah. Seemed like DFM pretty aware of what was going on down here in the bottom side. And so they will just back away from it. Don't want to get caught out. Seal has been very active in this game. I've been loving what he's been able to hold in the early game. As now Straight is taking a huge amount of free damage, and he's just going to die. Now 5kid doesn't have any way to save himself. He already used that block, and that's just a double kill into the hands of Yutapon. They are now stomping this bottom lane.
Yeah, and this is, you know, again, somewhat unforced errors here, unfortunately, for the bot duo for Aze, and they've given so much power to Yutapon now on a pick that is extremely powerful when fed like this, and it's not going to be, like, basically the laning phase is over for 5kid now. He is just never going to have kill pressure. He is just always going to be under threat. This is going to be a free dragon that comes as a bonus to these kills here on the bottom side. I think just a lack of respect to how much damage Yutapon can put on with this Lucian pick in the early game is really the name of the game here. Like, Aze just disrespecting it quite a bit. As in terms of the top prio here, it is going to make it a little bit tougher for DFM to rotate over to take Rift Herald priority. They did take the Drake, but Aze still, with the timing of the back here for Alone in the mid lane and their lack of control bottom side, just don't have enough control to start this one up early. There's a ward on this, so this is not a secret, and knows the rotation's coming over. You see Harp on his way over here.
Yeah. I mean, teleport's coming out, like, they know this 100%. I think Dimitri's just hoping that maybe he can sneak this one away. But it's not really going to happen, as Lonely, you know, he does have some prio from the top side, so maybe he's banking on that as well. But as a team, you can see now DFM in position, ready to fight over this one. Dimitry all alone here, does have the flash, and he is just going to hop over the wall. But a little bit of a thank you for the leash, says DFM. You know, they will just eventually get the kill onto this one. Looks like the smite not quite ready for Seal, but it doesn't matter because they just take it away.
Yeah, and I think for Aze, this is a moment where, you know, we as casters, we have the bird's eye view, we can see everything. It feels almost foolish to try to start this Rift Herald. But what other choice do they really have in a situation like this where they have some top prio, they want to try to utilize that? The bottom lane is over. Like, you didn't even have level 6 for this fight because 5kid was removed. He's not going to be able to Inferno trigger here and look for that powerful team fight with Wukong. So they do have to give this up when it's contested from DFM. And if DFM was a little bit slow on the drop, maybe you steal this way, maybe you get lucky. But, you know, obviously, from what we could see and what we know, it was not a game state where they could realistically take the Herald, but they tried to do something here with the deficit they have. Take risks when you're behind, you've got to do something with this top prio, but the lead that Lonely has is going to diminish here over time, and they're just not able to, unfortunately, utilize it at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing you can say is that 5kid was able to get some of that farm down on the bottom side, but he's Samira, you know, he was alone, he got a lot of solo XP while that was going on. Got one plate, but still very behind in this one, as DFM now clearing out some vision already, just hanging around the mid lane. It almost feels like they want to end this laning phase right now with the Rift Herald and say, okay, let's try to get a bunch of plates, you know, but not going to drop it down just yet in the mid lane, just trying to put on as much map pressure first.
Yeah, DFM has had so much control of vision. We talked about the 2 wards they had around the Dragon earlier. Aze just didn't have any vision control there whatsoever. They were kind of walking through the river in the dark, and now DFM is just continuing to try to push deep wards through. They don't want there to be any mystery about where the support is, where the jungler is, while they're trying to push those advantages and get that Rift Herald drop for maximum value. Because as you mentioned, you could put it mid lane, you could put it bottom lane, you really have both options. Yutapon's in a position where he doesn't really need any help or extra gold because he's 3-0-1, and you know, he's just going to take this opportunity to take a free back. And DFM are just kind of coasting with this lead against a team composition of Aze. Had they found success in this early game, had they not had that poor 2v2 twice on the bottom side of the map, they could be looking to contest vision and look for these objectives themselves. Now they just kind of have to sit back and hope for that, you know, Rumble scaling in later team fights, wait for that Viktor to come online, because it's not going to be the scrappy Inferno trigger Wukong ult fights in the mid game that they were hoping for.
Yeah, we did get that Massacre Mythic purchase out here from Yutapon. He did get the Gale Force at 11 minutes into the game. So all of those kills and all that gold just being piled into him to pick up that early Mythic. Really enjoying himself in this one. As Dimitry, you can see he's looking for stuff. I mean, this is what the Wukong wants to do. But as I mentioned before, I mean, Yaharong Syndra, he can just take this at range. He never has to be in danger. He doesn't have to face check unless he has lane control. And he's never going to put himself into a position where a Viktor with really no gank assist is ever going to be able to take him down.
So I want to point out something too here, Valdes, as in terms of Steel's build, we see this actually quite often in Korea, the Umbral Glaive start for Graves, and this is very common when your team has a lead, because you have the lethality stats, of course, that it gives you, and you can pick people off, you could be oppressive, you could be so aggressive around early team fights. It also means you get more vision control, and it makes it so difficult for Aze who have no map control whatsoever to play the game or take any sort of objectives, or even look to control their own jungle.
Yeah. And this is a little bit of what we were expecting, you know, the follow-up to that early lead that DFM were able to pick up. They are going to drop it down to the bottom side just to make sure they get the first turret blood, and they will hand all of that gold over to Yutapon as well. Very delicious.
And it also sets up for this Drake. The timing of this is perfect. Drake spawns in 15 seconds. Is going to be that Mountain Drake to be the second for them. They have complete prio. Notice the deep warding here, several control wards. And now they're just going to start putting the pressure on in the mid lane to guarantee prio here, taking more jungle camps away from Dimitry. Alone to way far forward here.
Yeah, Scan of the Week misses, so he will survive. But, you know, it's one of those games where, yes, you're the Viktor, you can wave clear, but DFM are just going to look to put on as much pressure onto these turret plates early on as possible. They will take a second one, and they're grouped up for the Dragon, as you were talking about, looking to stack those Drakes.
Yeah, and you know that there's no flank coming because you killed the bottom turret. You have full control there. You have 2 control wards bottom of the pit, and to the left of the Drake pit, you were just there. You know everything. There's no unknowns here for DFM. And when you have a lead like this with a composition like what they're running, you can try to just continually fight and snowball with your Lucian pick, or you could just control the map and take every objective and force Aze out of the game by kind of out-grinding the important objectives around the map, and that's going to be the safer way that DFM play this out.
Yeah, we do see Lonely. He picks up 2 plates in the top side. Evi, you know, he's just hanging out. You know, he's enjoying his time. He's like, yeah, my team's doing really well. I'm Ornn. Let me just sit here and get some levels and try to survive. Doesn't matter that I'm that far behind. Whatever. You know, my team will be able to carry me through this one, and then I will give them items later on.
Yeah, exactly.
And just hang out.
Evi is basically a second shopkeeper who works for DFM in this game, and he is a long-range engage tool.
He's much more friendly than Boris, I find, actually. Yeah. Ornn is he's a really nice guy.
He's very friendly.
Happy he's with us, yeah.
This could be, this is again where the power of the Umbral Glaive comes in through here for Steel. He could push far forward like this and start to threaten dives on the turret. And they have, because of this Syndra pick, so much ability to actually, from long range, just look for an explosive pick if there's not some respect. And if Aze respects you, you get a turret.
Oh, no. Not like this.
Not
like this. Not like this, Lonely. He does have the ult coming in down onto Lonely. Lonely did already flash. The damage should be there, but not quite, actually. Evi not able to get that kill down as now the Wukong comes in. Dimitry able to take out one. The Berserk comes in, though, and they will be able to turn it onto Alone. He was a little bit out of position by himself in the river, so at least DFM are able to trade one back. And
they do trade one back, but again, it's on to the champion that is going to be fine, you know, in every case here. This is a bit overextended from Yaharong.
Yeah, nice little juke there from Dimitry as well, able to get out of the Scout of the Week. As now the depth chart does come in. Yaharong just had no idea that Dimitry had stuck around with a teleport and the guy's coming up the river. He will be punished for his maneuver.
Yeah, that was very greedy from Yaharong, but based on what he had seen, he thought that Aze were having a back timing there and he was just going to try to get extra value on the top side. The reality is that he's picked and punished, and now this is second Rift Herald going over to Aze here, so they're going to get a large amount of success from this, and there wasn't anything cross-map that DFM got while all that pressure was topside to kill Yaharong.
They really just love bullying Alones here, feels like, as we will have Gravity Field come down, and Harp will just have to back out of this one.
In terms of late game scaling, there is the effect that we're going to have with these two massive AP late game champions, the Rumble and the Viktor, who can do so much damage later on. So those are the ones you want to bully. Those are the ones you don't want to let sit back and farm. And notice that is exactly what they have been doing, because they're going to be the somewhat of an insurance policy here for Aze. So DFM trying to punish them here as best as possible. Unfortunately, it's a limited success here through the mid game. And if a Viktor just gets to sit back and farm like this, in terms of damage output later on, he will outdo Syndra in every scenario. So it's really going to be about good team fight setups here. This is Lonely, of course, the catch onto him, so to speak, but the turnaround was really nice. They just don't quite have enough damage here.
Yeah. I mean, you think about it, Lonely is pretty far ahead. He's got those 2 extra levels, so he's very survivable, actually. And, you know, the lethality Graves, he missed his end of the line. There's a lot of damage that he just wasn't able to put into Lonely. So with the flash, he's able to survive for so long. And it's not exactly what you would expect when he literally face checks the brush.
And yeah, and knows the vision here as well. Yaharong does check once here on bottom brush with this ward, but doesn't catch Dimitry. And as you mentioned, the sidestep is good. Yaharong is punished, leads to second Rift Herald. These are the types of small mistakes that could actually cost you a game like this, because your composition's late game isn't as clean per se. Like, yes, you have the ornaments, but will that actually make a Syndra as strong as a Viktor? No, not actually. Especially when she's got, you know, the Everfrost build that she's going with here. That upgrade isn't going to be as significant, whereas Alone has Illudence. It is going to be building some magic pen later on, so there are serious concerns here for DFM. The lead is big, but it's not. We're not a secure DFM right now.
Yeah, it's very true. I mean, if you consider that eventually we might see a couple of Zhonyas, we have already a collector here for the Lucian, who is very far ahead, so I can understand it. But you also have the Graves that's going lethality. So, you know, some of these builds not really going to scale too well, and we will have to see if Aze can take advantage of that. You see, they are setting up here for the Cloud Drake. And this is going to be a curious fight, because Aze still behind in this one.
Yeah, they still are. And this is
they take a fight?
If they win this fight, this is a massive turning point for them, because all of that extra gold will really empower these scaling AP champions. I think use your Rift Herald to try to set up a fight, but you don't need to force anything here. DFM, they cannot just simply give this up, though. They need to continue that momentum, set up for Soul Point here with this Cloud Drake. This is going to be, I mean, this game is really teetering on the edge. And if Aze win this fight convincingly, DFM are in big trouble.
You can see the TP's coming in right in front of all of Aze. So Evi says hello on the Ornn. He's looking to get on in here with his chem tank. As Reli's now popped, that's a couple of items now that are going to be going down, and nobody will commit to the fight just yet.
Yep, and Evi's ultimate here is so critical when they do want to engage. Those positioning here is a nice spread for Aze.
Red carpet is down, they're trying to make room, and the smite comes down from the side of Dimitry. He's able to get that one, and DFM saying, nope, we're not going to commit over the Rumble Equalizer. You can have the one Cloud Drake.
That was a really patient game from both teams here. DFM going to try to turn this into a turret because they were grouped up for an objective they didn't fight for. But Alone has great wave clear here. Teammates are on the way back, and I don't know if they're actually going to be able to fully commit to this turret. Remember also, Lonely, it does have a flank angle here. They get the turret and back out immediately. Not going to look for anything further. But again, DFM, the crisis management of that Rift Herald drop and still contesting the Drake was good, but weren't able to set up for a fight. And you could start to see the composition waning significantly here, you know, as we press the 20-minute mark. And it's not a one game by any means. The 2,000 gold lead isn't going to be as significant in 5-10 minutes from now as it is now.
So you see Aze pretty confidently just pushing up through mid. Taking a look at some of the items, we actually do have Yaharong building towards that Void Staff. So far, you have a couple of Merc Treads, but nobody else is building any kind of magic resist. And, you know, I suppose Straight will be having some of that magic resist as the game does come along. But already with the Sork Pen boots, I wouldn't have even minded going for something like a Shadow Flame, something that could do a little bit more upfront damage, especially at this point in the game.
Yeah, the Dark Seal as well feels pretty optimistic. I mean, you're trying to get the most gold-efficient AP as you can right now if you're the Syndra here, because, you know, you're not in a position where the leads that your team had early on a Lucian bottom haven't translated to you being able to get ahead. They've tried several times to kill Alone. He has died twice, but it didn't lead to Syndra picking up a lot of gold, being very oppressive on the map. So even with the Umbral Glaive and the deep vision that DFM has set up, I feel like Aze has really weathered the storm extremely well this game. You can see the gold lead here has stayed relatively the same for DFM across this game. They need to use this to get more permanent advantages, like a Baron if they could fight for that, or a Soul Point. They failed to do that last time. They give a second Cloud Drake over to Aze here, and then we're really starting to worry for DFM. We're like, okay, there's a possibility this game could go awry. Now we're starting to almost predict it if things don't change soon.
Yeah, absolutely. As we do see Evi coming around the back, maybe thinking about setting something up onto Lonely. As the teleport will come in here and Lonely will be knocked up. That might just be enough to set up the kill as the red carpet does come down and even a flash comes out of Lonely, but that is not going to be enough. So nice kill set up there from DFM.
Yeah, I think a bit of a puzzling flash there. Really nice set play, knowing that Yaharong is going to be able to follow up CC here with the teleport that he has available. Really nice grab here. And these are the types of plays DFM have to be looking for. They have to be punishing. They cannot let Lonely just sit in the side lane and farm. He's got his Shadow Flame online. He is a force to be reckoned with in a 5v5. That's not where you want to face the Rumble when he's behind, you know, the front line and he's just setting up that damage. You want to isolate him, take him out, kill him, prevent him from farming, and they're successful at doing that this time.
Yeah, pretty good stuff. As you see DFM, you know, they weren't worried about any kind of Baron rush from the side of Aze. Still too early on. You have a Samira on their side, and it's not quite enough damage to rush it down or anything like that, especially from behind in the gold where they're at here. As see both teams still hanging around. I mean, they both know that they got to set up for this Baron. They got to do something around this. But, yeah, I mean, the clock is ticking.
Lonely lost his flash in that last exchange. It's not too significant, but I appreciate that in this kind of game of chicken around Baron right now where DFM have vision, he just immediately straight up walks bottom lane and is starting to side lane. And you can see some good macro plays here from this Korean top laner coming through. He's trying to find cross-map plays. He knows he's calling DFM's bluff, basically. I have teleport, I've got my ultimate, I can come back in. Now DFM are actually going to pull the trigger.
Yeah, and you consider this team, they have excellent turn. You have the Berserk,
no vision.
You have the Ornn Horn, you have the Syndra with the Scout of the Week. They have so many ways with their lead to turn onto this one, but Aze, they don't have vision. They're not comfortable to go in. They don't see it happening on time, and that will just be the free Baron given over to DFM.
You can see they were definitely aware of it, but there's just no recourse when you don't have vision. And like you said, the turn is so amazing. It's Lethality Graves. The items advantage that DFM still currently hold is still relevant right now. And so, you know, they do push that bottom wave out, but don't get any permanent damage. Not able to take out an inner turret, start to threaten inhibitors. And had they been able to get vision or wrestle for control there, he did have the teleport. It doesn't happen. Now, DFM need to use this Baron to get permanent damage themselves, try to take out an inhibitor and further control their map, or further their control of the map, I should say.
Curious to see what DFM will do with this buff. Yaharong finally going to get his revenge up on the top side of the map. Not going to die this time, will in fact take out the turret with his own Baron buff. That is the Red Bull Baron power play, by the way, that DFM are utilizing here in this one. And Aze, they say, well, there's going to be a Constellation Cloud Drake. Let's take that one. But it feels like the bleeding has finally began to set in here as DFM are really laying into them and taking as much of the map as possible.
Yeah, notice Alone is pushing bottom, and so every time DFM group up to try to take these turrets out, they haven't been able to actually really do it very quickly, and so there are trade-offs here, you know? Again, that late game Viktor is becoming more and more relevant every second he gets to spend in the side lane. They will get this turret, but it comes at a price.
Yeah, second turret does come down here. And DFM at a very strong point in the game. You know, the syzygy even completed here for Steel, the upgrade of the Eclipse. Just a very strong Graves in this one and can really chunk anybody on the side of Team Aze. Nobody's really built too much armor. You see a couple of plated steel caps, and that's about it. You know, Nautilus is taking a couple of pieces, but everybody has to get damage, everybody else, I should say. And so we're forgoing Zhonya, stuff like this, but that just means that Yutapon and Seal are going to just be chunking people out.
They absolutely will. Hey, look at the position here for Evi is so good.
The Flash Berserk going to get 3 of them, and Evi is just tanking everything up. Everybody else on the side of Team Aze just trying to survive as they will turn this one on to Lonely. He is going to go down, and the culling is safe for now. And there's the chunk damage that comes in. Nearly everybody on the side of Team Aze will be taken out. That is, in fact, going to be the ace and the teleport into the mid lane as DFM will look to take down game number 1 for them.
I really like the pivot in the draft here for Aze, trying to get some late game scaling. They knew their win condition. They were avoiding these types of fights, but eventually you will have to face the music. Setup here is very poor going to this fight. Evi has a nice angle, is able to get those knockups through. 1-1 team fight and a wipe at this stage of the game with the items that DFM have, and as you say, it's a teleport to mid to end the game.
That's just going to do it with the Baron. It should be enough. We do have Dimitry trying to make one final play, but a little bit sad at the end there. Straight says, well, how about me? Maybe I can get something going, but it is not going to happen. Big thumbs up from Evi. As Detonate's Focus Me will take down their first game here in Group A, now sitting at 1-0.
There were some shaky moments through the mid game for DFM where it looked like, okay, they're not utilizing their lead as well as they could have, but the early game was oppressive. Remember, this is with a really rough start for Steel in the jungle, and they still were able to, through the 2v2s in the bottom side of the map, this Lucian pick, once again, really rearing its head in what can lead to such a nice tempo advantage. We saw the Emerald Glaives come out, their vision control was great, and despite some great farming there for those champions, the Rumble and the Viktor, that were hoping to go to a 35-minute, 40-minute game maybe and be relevant later, eventually they did have to face the music. They did have to look for that team fight. And they were caught out of position completely there, and the game ends. DFM definitely looking to be the stronger team here. I think it was pretty clear, pretty cut and dry in terms of their understanding of how to control from an early lead.
Yeah, pretty good showing.